my god, before we leave, you gotta check out the employee.
The Last of Us Season 2 Episode 1 is here, and I've got to be honest, I'm going into this season blind. I was a big fan of the first game, poured hundreds of hours into the story and the hugely underrated multiplayer because it came out when I was young enough to have the free time, and I made a series of videos on each episode of Season 1, but I've never played the second game. I never found the time. All I know about it is that it hugely divided opinion, and I've deliberately avoided learning nothing more in order that I can go into this season blind. And my thoughts are a little mixed. We're going to start with a negative. I want to get that out of the way quickly so we can focus on something really, really brilliant this episode does. Are you ready? We open with a great shot from Season 1 of Ellie getting Joel to swear he's telling her the truth. I think showing us this again tells us a lot of conflict is going to come from Joel's lie. I love watching the journey of emotion that plays out in Ellie's face. I like the decision to have a flashback from Season 1, but the problem is we then cut to these Fireflies who you might remember were absolutely decimated by Joel at the end of Season 1 in his efforts to rescue Ellie from an operation that would kill her, but maybe there's a slim chance it would have produced a cure. The problem here is I don't feel anything with these characters. I think we're lacking insight into the weight of their feelings, especially with Abby here, who seems like the main one. You know, logically we understand it. They're positioned before the graves of their friends, talking about Joel. It's pretty clear to understand what they're feeling, but I think we needed maybe like a flashback to that Season 1 moment, but from their perspective, or just something a little more emotive. This is effectively our introduction to them. They need to make me care, and I feel like most of this scene is caught up on the confusion of stories around Joel. I don't think just showing a visual shot of graves is enough to wallop my heart with what they feel, you know? As a result, it makes this scene feel a bit exposition-y, in my opinion. I don't think the dialogue is bad at all, but because the lack of impact makes it feel like exposition, suddenly the dialogue then feels weaker than it otherwise would have done. And we then get to the end and there's this sense of, oh, watch out, these people are coming for Joel. And I just think, so what? Are these people a threat? Joel already killed most of them, and then half of these lot don't seem too lost in revenge. Show me why they're a threat and why we should care. Otherwise, these kind of ominous foreshadowing shots don't really amount to much, don't have the impact they deserve. So I'm really hoping we do get more insight into these characters, and very quickly, because they end this episode outside Jackson, which suggests there's going to be a confrontation next episode, and I hope there is more time for more setup. I hope this isn't all the setup we're given for these people. Yes, I consider that a mark against this show, but I loved this episode. I think I'm always just a sucker for that trope of a semi-utopian community with all sorts of ominous hints that the whole thing is going to collapse into a tragedy. That seems to be my thing. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but I found this episode incredibly sweet. There's so much chemistry on display, especially between Ellie and Dina. I really don't understand why people say Bella Ramsey is a bad actor. My favourite shot of this episode is actually just both of them silently signalling their plan, and just the mock, serious, playful expressions they pull is great. Ellie so does not take the danger seriously because she is immune, but you have to wonder the kind of influence her lack of seriousness might have on other people who aren't immune. But generally there's just something so heart-wrenching about getting to watch these people who we know went to hell and back suddenly just being ordinary, you know? Joel is managing construction and whittering on about circuit breaks like an old granddad, pretending to be shot by his nephew. Ellie is doodling, listening to music, getting ripped into for looking like Curtis and Viper. I think what's so masterful this episode is we've got so many different intricate dynamics that have just been woven into the community here, all set up so effortlessly, and it makes this episode feel so alive. The various authority figures who are influenced by Joel that Ellie is then eager to undermine as a means both to prove herself and to rebel against him. We've got the guy Dina is on and off with, we've got Ellie's own history with Kat, Dina's own confused dynamic with Joel, Ellie and Tommy, Joel and Maria. Admittedly, the whole thing about Gail's husband left me wondering if there was something I'd forgotten from season 1. I had to Google it and discover this isn't something we're supposed to know about yet. But it's definitely intriguing. There's a lot of different dynamics going on, and none of this community is perfect. There's all sorts of confusing conflicts, and yet generally they are managing them very amicably. I love how amicable the argument is between Joel and Maria, because at the end of the day, they're both family and they both have a good point. Ellie and Dean are getting away with all sorts that should make the council mad, but they can't help feeling charmed by them. This feels like a proper community, not because the episode paints everything as rosy, but because you can feel these people are trying to work things out, making the effort to get along, even when it isn't perfect. That's what makes the world of Jackson feel so special. And also what makes Joel stand out so much as a contrast. A man with a ton of internal conflict on display this episode. I love all of it. That is really what I wanted to talk about. But first, let me say this.
Ooh, where'd you get the
subscription to World Anvil?
Dominique. Traded small boots for it.
Oh, you better believe it's World Anvil. They are sponsoring this video, they are offering you 51% off, and they are an online tool for building worlds, you may have guessed. But also creating characters, designing and managing campaigns for all sorts of different games. My best friend uses it for D&D, but there's lots of other games. You can use it for planning your stories, writing your stories, working on all sorts of creative projects. For me, it is my novel. I need a tool like this, otherwise I am far too chaotic. We're moving flat soon and I literally have 6 cardboard boxes full of random sheets of A4 paper I've written old ideas on. Pre-World Anviled me was a nightmare. So with something like this, not only can I keep everything organised, keep it all in one place, be able to easily edit things, but I can create timelines, I can create hyperlinks branching off specific characters or articles or a billion other things that just make it so much easier to find stuff. Planning things can be hard, especially when there's so much to do, but having all of these tools to help visualize it, to help split everything down into specific points, articles one at a time, it helps immensely. I'm not going to show you because it's a secret, but I've created different bio pages for all of the characters in my world, even the minor ones, which house they live in, what their job is, who they're friends with, who they hate, what different beliefs they have or opinions about events that go on in the book or whatever. So, World Anvil is great. I hope you can hear my passion, and if you desire, if you crave. If you call to the heavens for a 51% discount, then use the code TREE, or click the link in the description, or the pinned comment, or if you just want to try out the free version, then go for that. You know, there's no time limit on it. Test it out for as long as you want. World Anvil. On the one hand, Joel is trying to get along in Jackson, trying to settle down and rebuild. He's literally building homes. He's attending the dance, he's trying to reach Ellie, he's going to therapy. On the other hand, he's confrontational and overprotective at the dance. He distances himself from the council. He's shut inside fiddling with springs instead of outside overseeing the construction. And the guitar, the prop that signifies his attempts to reach Ellie, is also the barrier that stops him having to really reach out. Most importantly, he's holding back in therapy. And as a therapist myself, it's unsurprising I love the unhinged, unethical, and yet sort of also therapeutic nature of their session. I think in a world where you're the only therapist and your client killed your husband, yes, that's something you should address. I don't think she does it in the best way, but she's technically right. Gail hates him, and it's in expressing that she can start to heal with him.
You can't heal something unless you're brave enough to say it out loud. You shot and killed my husband. I hate you for it. And yes, I know you had no choice. I know I should forgive you. There it is. I've said it. And now maybe there's a chance I can make things right with you. Your turn.
Therapeutically, it's far too direct to really work in this context. It doesn't surprise me at all that Joel gets up and leaves. But there is a fundamental lie Joel is clinging on to, and never admitting the truth, not even to himself, is holding him back and holding Ellie back. Ellie has this underlying hurt about the thing he did, but she also doesn't know if he did it for sure. She doesn't want to believe it. She's afraid to confront it. Even though I think she does know deep down, and it's because it's then not something they can talk about. It leaves them stuck, unable to do anything but slowly drift apart. Joel killed a lot of people and went against Ellie's wish. As far as she knows, denied humanity a cure because he wanted to save her. And we could get lost in the moral dilemma of what was the right thing for Joel to do, but that doesn't matter. Joel thinks he did a good thing. It's what he forcefully insists through a tearful stare.
I saved her.
I love Pedro Pascal's acting in this shot because you see him almost breaking down, almost hoping to, the relief from doing that. And then up comes this anger, this kind of defensiveness and this sense of persecution that says, I don't want to feel like a bad person, I don't want to feel like a monster, no, what I did was good. He saved her and he resents being made to feel like a villain for it, but that's the problem, right? How much this episode Joel keeps insisting he's a good person.
So the springs hold the levers?
The thing is, I try. I mean, what did I do?
On Ellie, he says,
I see her around town, gives me a nod like I'm a stranger or some asshole.
On Dina, he says,
Gives me a smile, looks up to me, makes me feel like I'm a good guy, which I am.
why do you keep needing to insist you're a good guy, Joel? Insist that what you did was save her, was the right thing. Why would you force that idea so much unless you fear otherwise? And you can't heal that fear, that guilt, that thing that's holding you back unless you give it space to breathe. You know, the right or wrong doesn't matter because it could be the absolute right thing to do and yet also have consequences. Sometimes that's what doing the right thing is. It means doing it despite consequences. And you have to then accept that those metaphorical consequences might cross the country to seek you out. Joel is stuck, not just because he wants Ellie to remain that kid that he needs to protect when she's older now, but needing so much to insist on his morality that he is then unable to let go of the underlying guilt. So busy arguing he's a good person that he never gets to feel like he is. And in reverse, the reason I love this scene so much, Gale is saying exactly what Ellie needs the space to say. I hate you, Joel. You did a thing I hate you for. You are a terrible person. Maybe not in those words, but she needs to let out the resentment and that bit of her that does hate Joel right now in order to start remembering again, actually, she also loves him. She cares for him. That he isn't a terrible person. That he is good underneath. Gale tried to keep insisting to herself that she should forgive Joel, but it doesn't work until she gives voice to her anger. Ellie needs to do exactly the same, and I think this scene functions then as brilliant foreshadowing because it's given me the very strong sense Ellie won't get the opportunity to do the same. I don't know why or how, but that will be beautifully, tragically heart-wrenching. This episode is wonderful because it shows us people can work things out. It's not easy, they've not gotten there yet, but it is possible, there is potential. Even a therapist can start to work things out with the guy who killed her husband. But there are dangers beneath the surface. Abby coming to town, runners that can be clever now, which is a very natural, terrifying development in the world, by the way. And this shot of the pipe. Oh my god, I thought this was going to be a thing of the sparkler starting a big fire in the town, but this is way more ominous. We see the potential for people to work things out before seeing it get ripped away from them. I hope I'm wrong about that because it will be awful, but I also hope I'm right because I am all in for the drama. 8 out of 10 episodes. I did not expect to be so invested so quickly. Let me know what you think. I haven't seen anyone else's reactions to this episode yet. I know there are like a bunch of channels that get to watch the episodes early for some reason. I don't get that. It was released at 2 AM in UK time. I didn't watch it until 10 AM. It's now 11:45 when I'm recording this-ish. If I do manage to get this released the same day, then give the video a like. I think I'll have earned it. Subscribe, maybe even support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee. Otherwise, hopefully see you next time. And as ever, a special thank you goes to Flying Spider, Kellyanne Davidson, Luke Orr, Michael Gallagher, Benry, Joshua C. Follier, and Chad Bramwell. Thank you.